Imagine the Great Pyramid of Giza, the sheer power of stone, a king's obsessive desire for immortality. Now, think of Stonehenge, a cosmic calendar, a giant stone circle mapping the heavens. What if I told you there was something even older than both? Not just older, but built in one of the most isolated places on Earth, on a tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean. This is a place where giants didn't just build tombs or stone circles. This is where the world's oldest freestanding complex temples were born. This is Malta. And here we find the lost cradle of one of the Neolithic world's strangest, richest, and most mysterious cultures. Welcome to the Shard of History. Between 3600 and 2500 BC, around the same time as the builders of Newgrange in Ireland, and even before Egypt's first pharaohs, the people of Malta embarked on what can only be described as a temple-building craze. Ġgantija, which means the giant's tower, Ħaġar Qim, Mnajdra. These are just a few of the more than 30 massive megalithic temples scattered across this small island. According to local legend, Ġgantija was built overnight by a female giant. Of course, it's a myth, but when you stand before those stones, you start to understand why they might have thought that. The most astonishing thing about these structures is their architectural complexity. These are not simple huts. They are surrounded by massive limestone blocks, but inside they contain intricate, multi-chambered spaces shaped like clover leaves, or with semicircular rooms called apses. Some even resemble the floor plans of later Christian cathedrals. These were sacred spaces, designed with a profound purpose. Some of the blocks in Ġgantija's outer walls weigh more than 50 tons. That's the same as the largest stones at Karnak. How did these people carve and move these giants without metal tools? Archaeologists have found hundreds of small stone spheres beneath the temples. This offers a brilliant clue. They may have used a primitive ball-bearing system to roll these massive blocks into place. But who were these people? They likely arrived on the island around 5000 BC, probably from Sicily. For thousands of years, they lived in almost complete isolation. This is crucial. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, they had no major external trade, no wars, no cultural exchange. There are almost no metal objects, no defensive walls. The entire population's energy was focused on building, not fighting. This tiny island was a civilization in a laboratory, all by itself. And what this laboratory produced is unlike anything else in history. Inside these temples, archaeologists have found thousands of figurines. But these weren't powerful pharaohs or warrior kings. Almost none of them depicted men or warriors at all. Almost all of them were female, and not just any women. These were massive, corpulent figures with exaggerated hips, breasts, and bellies. The most famous are the Venus of Malta and the incredible Sleeping Lady statue. Some stand, some sit, others lie down. And here lies the central mystery. What does this mean? Was there a great goddess cult that thrived on this isolated island for 1,000 years? Do these figures represent fertility, the richness of the earth, a Mother Earth deity? Some interpretations go even further. Could this have been a matriarchal society where spiritual and maybe even political power was held by women? In a world where famine was a constant threat, being fat might have symbolized wealth, health, and abundance. Fat meant successful. It meant sacred. But the secrets of these temples don't just lie above ground. Beneath it, perhaps the most mysterious Neolithic structure of all awaits, the Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum. This is literally an underground city of the dead, but it's no simple cave. It's a 3-level structure carved deep into solid limestone rock, mimicking the architecture of the temples above. It's a labyrinth of chambers, false doorways, and core-belt ceilings. This was a massive communal tomb, where the bones of perhaps more than 7,000 people were found. The bones were piled into small side rooms, many of them covered with red ochre, a symbol of blood and life. And there's another chilling secret in this underground world, the oracle chamber. A small niche in this chamber has perfect acoustics. If you speak into it in a low voice, around 110 Hz, the deep frequency of a male voice, it produces an eerie, bone-rattling hum that resonates throughout the entire complex. What was this for? Was it a portal to speak to the gods of the underworld? A tool to induce trance states during funeral rites? Or was it a sound machine used by the priests of the fat goddesses to instill fear and awe in their followers? It's fascinating. At Newgrange, we saw a light machine that controlled the sun. Here, we see a sound machine that controlled the very vibrations of the earth. One temple looked to the heavens, celebrating life and light. The other delved into the earth, embracing death and darkness. Could these have been the two faces of the same belief system? Life and death, light and dark. And then, around 2500 BC, this incredible culture suddenly and completely disappeared. The temple building stopped. The complex pottery vanished. The population seems to have just gone. 1,000 years of unique, isolated civilization, silenced. Why? This is Malta's greatest mystery. There's no sign of invasion, no evidence of another people arriving. The most likely answer is that this culture fell victim to its own success. They built so many temples that it became a destructive obsession. Perhaps each clan, trying to win the gods' favor, attempted to build a bigger, grander temple than the next. And this religious fervor depleted the island's resources. Pollen analysis shows that the dense forests that once covered Malta completely vanished during this temple building period. The trees were needed for roofs, for scaffolding, and most importantly, for the rollers and sledges to move those 50-ton blocks. Once the trees were gone, the soil eroded, washing into the sea. There was no more fertile land to grow food. Here's the tragic irony: a culture built around a fertility goddess. Cult ended up destroying the very fertility of their own land. As famine set in, they probably built even more temples, praying desperately to appease their gods. This would have destroyed the last of the trees, hastening their own collapse. Their belief system imploded, society fragmented. Malta was a laboratory for civilization, and the experiment failed. The Hittites and Mycenaeans fell to external storms and internal cracks. But Malta seems to have suffocated under the weight of its own isolation and beliefs. At Karnak, we saw the raw power of stone. At Newgrange, the mastery of light. Here in Malta, we've witnessed the creative and destructive power of faith itself. But the legacy of the giants isn't over. Now, it's time to turn to the most iconic, most famous, yet still one of the most misunderstood monuments of all. The giant stone circle that has captured the world's imagination. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, please like and subscribe to The Shard of History. In the next episode, we'll try to solve the mystery of Stonehenge and how those massive blue stones got there.